The winner is at Chris Roper. Congratulations! You've just scored a free copy of Buried Treasures of the American Southwest by W.C. Jameson. Send us an email at beyondthemaptreasure@gmail.com to claim your prize, and welcome to the hunt. Are you ready to uncover lost gold, hidden mines, and outlaw loot buried across the American Southwest? Because this month, the book club is saddling up and diving into the legendary pages of Buried Treasures of the American Southwest. And let me tell you, it's a wild ride across Arizona, Arkansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. If you want even more of that Wild West energy, I highly recommend the West Texas Talk podcast. They dig deep into desert mysteries, historic legends, and untold tales. Check it out at WTXpodcast.com. You won't regret it. But are these stories just barroom folklore? Or are they maps to real, long-lost fortunes? Why do so many who find the gold never make it back? And what secrets did Bill Kelley take to his grave? Tonight, let me take you into the unforgiving terrain of Big Bend Country, West Texas, where the sun scorches, the mountains loom, and the ghosts of gold diggers still whisper in the wind. This is the tale of the Lost Bill Kelley Mine, one of the richest and most cursed gold mines in American folklore. It all began in 1884 when a young man named Billy Kelley, a Seminole African-American wanderer with a sharp eye and a saddlebag full of determination, found himself hired by the Reagan brothers at a cattle ranch near Reagan Canyon. But this wasn't just a job. On one fateful roundup near the Rio Grande, Kelley stumbled onto something extraordinary. A rich gold vein laced through quartz, hidden in the arid Mexican side of the canyon. He showed the Reagans. They laughed. He showed them the rock. They tossed it aside. Kelley knew better. He took a train to San Antonio and shared his find with a conductor and then with an assayer. The results? A mind-blowing valuation. $80,000 a ton in 1880s dollars. But when the Reagans intercepted the letter, Kelley knew his life was in danger. He vanished into the desert night on horseback, never to return to that canyon again. From there, the legend only deepened. Prospectors followed the clues. Train conductors searched. Foremen vanished. Letters went unanswered. Maps were traded for gold dust, and bodies began to pile up. Some stung by scorpions, some shot in the back, some drowned, some simply disappeared, all of them chasing the same cursed mine. One man called it cursed, another man said he found it, then was dead 2 days later. Even decades later, in the 1940s, 2 mining engineers arrived in Reagan Canyon and were never seen again. To this day, the Lost Bill Kelley Mine is believed to be hidden in the rugged canyon land south of Big Bend National Park, just above a petrified tree stump, beyond a boulder, and perhaps behind a veil of misfortune. Many treasure hunters, historians, and skeptics alike have noticed the mysterious pattern where land tied to legends of hidden fortune, whether it's outlaw gold, lost mines, or ancient caches, eventually ends up under government protection. Let's connect a few dots. The Lost Dutchman Mine, Superstition Mountains, Arizona, one of the most famous lost gold legends in America. And what's surrounding it today? Lost Dutchman State Park and the federally protected Tonto National Forest. You can hike, you can camp, but you definitely can't dig. Victorio Peak, White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico. Said to contain millions in hidden Spanish gold, it's now on high-security military land. No public access, no metal detectors, just fences and stories. The Lost Bill Kelley Mine, Big Bend Country, Texas. Much of the surrounding area is now Big Bend National Park or sits within protected lands along the Rio Grande. Oh, and it just so happens the most likely ridge is just south of the border. Convenient, huh? Thomas Beale Treasure, Bedford County. The supposed site of the buried Beale treasure lies squarely in National Forest land. Good luck getting permission to dig. Is it preservation, or protection, or prevention? Once these places become protected, no more digging, no more prying eyes, no more risk of accidentally uncovering something that could rewrite history or wealth distribution. And just like that, We've reached the end of another legendary chapter in our book club journey. This month, Buried Treasures of the American Southwest took us deep into the canyons, across scorching deserts, and into the whispers of gold mines lost to time. From Apache tales to outlaw legends and cursed fortunes, it's been one wild ride. But the adventure doesn't stop here. We're gearing up for August, and you get to choose where we head next. Head over to our official book club page at bookclubs.com and cast your vote for the next read. Whether you're in the mood for buried loot, unsolved mysteries, or something totally new, your voice guides the next hunt. Head over to the book club or keep listening. Now for a deeper dive into the Lost Kelley Mine. Located in the rugged Big Bend country of West Texas is the Lost Bill Kelley Mine. This remote and forbidding landscape in the Chihuahuan Desert has long been associated with mystery and hardship, as early pioneers often died or disappeared in its arid, impassable mountains. Killed by the Apache or Comanche Indians, who called it home, encountered Mexican raiders or dangerous outlaws that hid within its steep canyons, succumbed to the venom of a poisonous snake, or got lost within these vast desert mountains. Lying somewhere in this remote country, the Bill Kelley Mine was not only said to have been one of the richest in all of North America, but also was cursed, as many of those who claimed to have found the gold or were close to discovering its location often died a violent death. In 1884, the four Reagan brothers, John, Jim, Frank, and Lee, established a cattle ranch near Reagan Canyon in southern Brewster County. On numerous occasions, the Reagans drove their cattle to the Southern Pacific Railroad at Dryden, Texas, a rugged 75-mile journey to the northeast. During one of these cattle drives, the Reagans met Billy Kelley, a Seminole African-American man who was trekking from the old Indian settlement in northern Coahuila, Mexico, looking for work in the ranch country of West Texas. Though only 19 years old, dressed in rags and unable to read or write, he convinced the brothers that he was experienced with horses, and the ranch owners hired him. Proving to be as good as he claimed, the Reagans soon allowed Kelley to care for the stock on his own. On one of these occasions, when Kelley was rounding up strays on the Mexican side of the Rio Grande, he stumbled onto a gold mine. Upon returning to the ranch, he told the Reagans of his find, but they only laughed at him. The next day, Kelley, along with Lee Reagan, was again rounding up stray horses near the location where Kelley said he had found the mine. Near the end of the day, Kelley told Reagan they were close to the mine that he had found and offered to take him there. Once again, Reagan only laughed. So Kelley retrieved a fist-sized piece of quartz from his saddlebag, showing Reagan the rich gold vein that ran through it. Reagan, obviously not familiar with gold, scoffed again, tossing the quartz to the ground and telling Kelley to focus on his job rather than looking for gold mines. Undaunted, Kelley knew what he had found, and a few weeks later took a train bound for San Antonio, where he began to visit with the train conductor, a man named Locke Campbell. He told Campbell about the mine and even provided him with a piece of quartz as proof. Kelley's newfound friend promised he would have the gold evaluated and would be in touch. In the meantime, Kelley also took a piece of the quartz to an assayer, who promised to send the results to the Reagan ranch. Kelley then returned to his work, and after several weeks, while he was out on the range, a letter came for him from the assayer. Not believing that Kelley could read, the Reagans opened the letter to discover that the gold that Kelley had found was valued at $80,000 to the ton. When Kelley returned to the ranch 3 days later, the cook told him that the brothers had opened his letter and read it. Nervous, Kelley feared that the Reagans would want him to lead them to the mine, where they would then kill him. As a result, he stole a horse and disappeared southward. The Reagans tracked him for 2 days, but finally gave up the search as the tracks crossed the Rio Grande into Coahuila, Mexico. Next, Kelley went to work on the Piedra Blanca Ranch, owned by George Chessman in Coahuila, Mexico. After a while, Kelley grew to trust his foreman, John Stillwell, and related the tale of the lost mine and showed him a saddlebag filled with gold nuggets. He also told Stillwell that he was afraid for his life and was thinking about returning to his relatives at the Seminole settlement in Coahuila. A short time later, after Kelley and other ranch hands had driven a herd of cattle to Mexico City, Kelley disappeared. Later, it was found that he had returned to his Seminole settlement for a time before moving north to Oklahoma. There, he was imprisoned for illegal bootlegging. After his release, he moved to San Antonio, where he lived until his death. In the meantime, Locke Campbell, the conductor Kelley had met on the train, had begun to look for the mine. Ironically, at a cattlemen's convention in San Antonio, Campbell met Jim Reagan, and the two exchanged their stories of Bill Kelley's lost gold mine. Campbell soon paired up with the Reagan brothers and began to look for the mine. Though they searched for several miles in each direction from the place where Lee and Kelley had rounded up strays, they could not find anything. However, the Reagan brothers continued their search for years, investing thousands of dollars in their efforts. In June 1899, Jim Reagan partnered with ranchers D.C. Borland and O.L. Muller and a prospector named John Finke to search for the mine. While the ranchers provided the financing, Finke's job was to find the mine, and the five men would share in any proceeds. After many weeks of searching, Finke arrived at the Borland Ranch, announcing he had located the mine and produced several large chunks of gold. He also stated that he had found the long-dead body of a black man in a remote canyon some 300 yards below the mine. That very night, Finke was stung by a scorpion and had to be taken to a doctor in Sanderson. There, Finke was hospitalized, where Borland and Reagan visited him, trying to get him to reveal the location of the mine. Not trusting the ranchers, Finke refused and told them that the group would have to get permission from the Mexican government to work the mine. After his recovery, Finke planned to travel to Mexico City to gain the proper permission. On the way, he stopped in El Paso, where he spent 2 days drinking at a saloon. Making friends with the bartender, Finke told him about the Lost Bill Kelley Mine and invited him to accompany him to Mexico City. 2 days later, Finke was found dead. Shortly afterward, Jim Reagan died, and his brothers eventually moved their ranching operations to Arizona. Locke Campbell continued to search for the mine until he died in 1926. In 1909, a man named Wattenberg arrived in the Big Bend area with a map reputedly showing the location of a gold mine in the Ladrones Mountains. Wattenberg claimed that the information came from his nephew, who was condemned to death in an Oklahoma prison. According to the tale, while stealing horses in Mexico, his nephew and his outlaw companions had come across an older man carrying 2 leather sacks filled with gold-laden quartz rock. When they threatened the older man, he took them to the mine. With a posse close behind them, they killed the old miner, threw his body into a canyon, and fled. In Wattenberg's search, he met John Young, who was familiar with the Ladrones Mountains and Reagan Canyon. The pair soon partnered along with another man named Felix Lowe to look for the mine. In 1910, while they were searching for the mine, the Mexican Revolution broke out, and with the border teeming with armed men, they abandoned their search. Several months later, Young was interviewed by a San Antonio newspaper and told the entire story of the Lost Bill Kelley Mine. Jack Haggard, a rancher in Coahuila, read the story and wrote a letter to Young. He told him that Kelley worked on his Mexican ranch for several years and that one of his foremen had found the mine using Kelley's directions. The foreman had returned with several ore samples that were assayed as rich in gold. However, the foreman had been killed in a gas explosion shortly after his return. Haggard also told Young that he, too, was searching for the mine. Years later, Haggard was preparing for another expedition to the Ladrones Mountains when he was drowned in a fishing accident. Another man searching for the mine was Will Stillwell, Kelley's old foreman at the Piedras Blancas Ranch. In 1915, Stillwell told his brother, Roy, that he had found the mine. Though Stillwell may have been working the mine, he had also joined the Texas Rangers. Assigned to a post in the Big Bend area, he was shot in the back by a Mexican outlaw in 1918. Afterward, Roy Stillwell, Will's younger brother, came into possession of the directions to the Bill Kelley Mine. Though several men asked Roy to lead an expedition to find the mine, Roy steadfastly refused, telling them all that the mine was cursed and pointing out the number of violent deaths associated with those who claimed to have found the gold or were close to discovering its location. Several months later, another group of men offered Roy a large amount of money if he would provide the directions to the mine. Responding that he wanted a few days to think about it, Roy was killed 2 days later when a truck overturned on him. In the late 1940s, 2 mining engineers from the east arrived in the area of the old Reagan Ranch. Hiring a local guide, they never said what they were looking for, but the guide assumed it was the Lost Bill Kelley Mine. According to the guide, the pair was very excited one day about something they found, paid him off, and told him his services were no longer needed. The guide always felt that the pair had found the mine. However, the two miners were never seen leaving the mountains and never returned to their homes in the east. The location of the Bill Kelley Mine is said to be in the mountains on the Mexican side of the Rio Grande, south of Big Bend National Park. Those who allegedly found the mine said it is on a ridge some 300 yards up a canyon wall. In the canyon are the stumps of several petrified trees, beyond which is a large boulder. Somewhere above this boulder is supposedly the Lost Kelley Mine. So there it lies, or so the legend says. A narrow ridge, 300 yards up a canyon wall on the Mexican side of the Rio Grande. Petrified stumps, a lone boulder, and somewhere above it, the mouth of a mine that's taken more than it's ever given. Gold worth a fortune. A story passed from cowboys to conductors, bootleggers to lawmen, a saddlebag of nuggets, a trail of bodies, and a curse whispered into the desert wind. Maybe the mine is still there. Maybe it's just a ghost story told under starry skies. But one thing's for sure, the hunt changes the hunter, and sometimes the real treasure isn't what's buried in the ground, but what we uncover in the journey. Thank you for joining me on this ride through time and shadow. If you're ready for more legends, mysteries, and maps that lead us deeper into the unknown, until then, keep your boots dusty and your stories gold.